Good evening. Thanks so much for joining us in the Hunter Smith Band Building. My name is Elliot Tackett, and it's my privilege to have worked all semester with the Wind Ensemble. We're really grateful that you're joining us this evening for a night of music making, which really caps off an entire semester of hard work and dedication by this group. We have 6 pieces that we'll perform for you this evening. Obviously, it's broken into 3 pieces, followed by an intermission. After the intermission, there will be about 10 minutes about a 10-minute presentation by Daniel about his piece. And we're very fortunate this evening to have not one, but 2 of the composers of tonight's works who actually go to school on grounds and work. So we'll hear from both of those composers. Without further ado, please enjoy Sousa's King Cotton March. Thank you. And by the way, welcome to everyone who's joining us on the live stream tonight, which is why we're speaking into this microphone so they can hear us clearly at home. The next piece that we'll perform this evening is Molly Joyce's piece entitled Up, Down. And when I was conceiving of the repertoire for this concert, my thought was, you know, we already have a wonderful piece that you'll hear in the second half written by a composer on grounds. It would be wonderful if we could add a second composer, someone who's working on grounds and teaching as well. So it just so happened, I think that Molly had emailed me a couple weeks prior and had introduced herself and shared a couple of her pieces, and I gave them a listen and I went, yeah, actually this works really well for the Wind Ensemble. So I reached out to Molly and we were so fortunate that she was willing to join us in late March for a rehearsal. Before we perform Up and Down, I'd like to have Molly come say a few words. So Molly, would you join us? Give her a hand.
Thank you so much, Elliot, and I, of course, want to thank you and the Tyre Wind Ensemble for putting effort into this piece. This work was written about a year ago for the Hope College Wind Ensemble in Michigan, and the impetus behind the work kind of stems from my love of binaries, and I feel like this love stems from my direct experience with my impaired left hand acquiring a disability about 30 years ago now. So with a lot of my work, especially my instrumental work, I love setting up these kind of binary forms of going from somewhere you would not expect. So I don't necessarily want to give the piece away, but it starts with a lot of arpeggios and very wide range of the ensemble and kind of contracts from there. Again, hopefully going somewhere you wouldn't expect with it. So thank you again.
set up Daniel's technical needs, feel free to step out for 8 to 10 minutes. We'll join you in about 10 minutes. Thanks so much.
I'm getting service points. Yeah, I'm actually going to drop the root on you guys instead. I'll rip the summary. Yeah. Oh yeah, play that. Do an F sharp. I'll try to hit the B natural. Both text
All right, welcome back. We're going to continue with the second half of this evening's concert. As I had mentioned, we were very fortunate this semester to have both Molly's piece on our program as well as Daniel Fisher's piece on the program. So I want to invite Daniel up to tell you a little bit about his piece and the inspiration as well as the format of the piece. So without further ado, will you please help me welcome Daniel Fisher.
On? Yeah, cool. Hi. So, I wrote this. So, if you don't know me, my name's Daniel Fisher. I'm a graduating fourth year majoring in aerospace engineering. I'm also a member of the Cavalry Marching Band. And I wrote this piece my senior year of high school as like a sort of reflective capstone sort of project. It's based off of Vincent Persichetti's pageant. I'll explain more into that, how it's like a dreamlike reversal. And before I start, out of respect for everyone here, I will give a verbal content warning for discussion of suicide. So first, I'll talk about Vincent Persichetti. So Vincent Persichetti was an American composer. He was very prolific, especially of band music, especially during his time. His distinct style became noted in the 1950s. And he was also a music educator at Juilliard and the Philadelphia Conservatory, with some students being Philip Glass and Michael Shapiro, if those names mean anything to you. And he wrote 14 pieces for a concert band in his distinct style. One of them was Pageant, which was completed in 1953. One of them was Divertimento, which we had just played. And another one I had played in the past is Symphony No. 6, which is a unique work for band, especially for the time, because it's 4 movements long. He also wrote 20th Century Harmony, which is a foundational text for Western music theory classes. And then here's a program note. I will read it out loud. You can look at it if you want. So Pageant was commissioned by the American Bandmasters Association and was completed in January 1953. It is Persichetti's third work for band. It opens in a slow tempo with a motive in the horn that is used throughout both sections of the piece. The slow chordal section is succeeded by a lively parade section introduced by the snare drum. In the final portion of the work, the two principal subjects are developed simultaneously to a lively climax. So this program note will provide some foundation for helping understand Pageant and thus understanding echoes. And to help us, I got some excerpts online with a scrolling score, if you can read that. So first, okay, we're good. This is the horn motive and the clarinet chorale, which you will find very prominently in the second half of Echoes. Very pretty, right? So you'll hear that in the second half of the piece, developed, reversed, augmented, all sorts of things will be done to that. And the next excerpt I have to you is the fast section introduction. So you'll hear elements of this towards the beginning of echoes. So here we go. Cool. Next, we have what I call the parade gesture. You'll also hear this very prominently in the first half of echoes. This excerpt sticks out in my mind because my band director, when we were playing this my freshman year in high school, he used to call this the Vincent Persichetti theme because you can almost sing to it. Vincent Persichetti, Vincent Persichetti. So that's why I included that very prominently. And then finally, I have the outro and the final chord, which is a very interesting final chord. You might even find it familiar to an extent because Divertimento did something very similar. So you can hear how it's crunchy, right? That's just one way to describe it. So what he did was he did something very cool, which is take several chords and stack them on top of each other to make that very interesting texture towards the end. You'll hear that chord and the climax of echoes. Speaking of echoes, here's like a general structure of it. So first, you'll hear a mallet chime over here, and then that'll recur throughout. You'll hear that throughout the entire piece, and then at the very end as well. Then the My Allegro section, which uses themes from the parade section of Pageant. And then that'll build up, and then come down with a percussion drone. And then Laura will play the iconic horn motive at the beginning of Pageant, except it's the second half of Echoes, because it's in retrograde, which means reversed. Oh, I didn't discuss that. Essentially, Pageant is in fast, slow, and the way I put it in reverse was I just took the sections and put them around. And then from there, it'll build to a climax from the clarinet chorale. You'll hear that develop throughout the second half of Echoes. And then it closes with a section called Soñando, which means dreamlike, and diminishes to clarinets. And then the final thing you'll hear of the piece is the mallet chime from the beginning. I have this goofy little graphic. Yeah. So at the bottom, you can kind of get a sense of how intense or dynamically intense in terms of thickness of the scoring. Where the piece will be. Then towards the middle, you have a general timeline with timestamps. I don't think any of you have stopwatches, so do with that what you will. And then at the very top, in very large letters, Allegro, Adagio, line in the middle, that's where you'll hear that very sudden shift. So, and that's enough talking about the technicalities of echoes. I would like to discuss the inspiration and dedication. So, as I said, this was a capstone project my senior year of high school, and it was incomplete by the time before I graduated, so unfortunately my band didn't get to read it. However, in some ways that ended up being an important component of how this piece came about. In my last few months of high school, the writing of Echoes was informed greatly by the tragedy of youth suicide and the perseverance of family and friends who carry this grief with them. This piece has a dedication on top of everyone's music and the score. It's dedicated to Ryan Bartell, Robbie Stanley, and Nick Pallett. They were all young people, brothers, sons, and friends that were lost to the plague of suicide. And I will speak a few words about them. Ryan was the oldest son of the Bartell family who created a foundation after his passing with the mission of preventing youth suicide. I was awarded a scholarship towards the end of my senior year from the foundation. And after that, I decided to dedicate the piece to Ryan and the work that his family does in his memory. Robbie was the brother of my friend who bravely shared her experience of loss as a final project in AP Literature. Her words, "It's okay to not be okay," still stick with me very strongly today. I shared a draft of Echoes as my project for that class since it was a very free-form submission. and it wasn't complete at that time. And I asked if I could dedicate the piece to Robbie, in addition to Ryan, after telling her what had happened at the senior award ceremony. And finally, I had the privilege of knowing Nick since elementary school and being his friend all the way from elementary school into college. And the community here lost him in January of 2020. His absence continues to be a great challenge to this day. And I, along with the people who knew him, miss him very, very much. And to lighten the mood a little bit, I'll share a little memory about Nick. My senior year of high school, he worked at Dunkin' Donuts. And we came to know him as the Donut Man. Let me finish. So he would bring leftover donuts from where he worked at the end of the day, and he brought them to class. Even the school even lent him a library card to roll his cart of donut boxes along, and he ended up in the yearbook about it. And I remember very fondly AP Calc 6 block B day. I would sometimes enjoy the donuts Nick would bring. He was a good man. On a broader note, I believe that music is a way for us to understand grief and to find some peace and much needed community after a loss. I believe that I share this sentiment with my friends up here, especially after the tragedy that occurred on grounds in this past November. And with that, I'll turn it back over to my friends and Dr. Tackett to continue the music.
The program does not include the fact that this is actually the public premiere of this piece. And Daniel and I worked over December and early January. After trying to premiere the piece in the fall, we worked on tightening some things up. So Daniel has revisited this piece multiple times, and it's been a labor of love of his for several years, and it's our privilege to share it with you today. idea actually came to me yesterday morning. And I went, you know what? This meets the moment. Daniel referenced the tragedy that occurred just literally feet from our doors back in November. And it was so incredible to see our students come together on Thursday evening in this room and literally provide testimony about what they have been experiencing over the previous few days since Sunday. And there are many things that the students in our incredible band program do very well. And one of those many things is that they understand the value of community, and they have reverence and respect for one another as people first, and then as musicians second. So we invited them to share notes on Post-it notes to each other, and they added them to the door on the left back by Marianne Sheeran. And those stayed on that door. There were about 30. Those stayed on that door until late January, and then we took them down. But we saved them, and I made sure to take a photo of every single Post-it note message that was left by a band member for a band member to read, potentially in their time of need. So I selected about 15 or so of those for you to see tonight, because I think that those Post-it notes exemplify the best of not only our community, but the best of humanity. And oftentimes after a tragedy, we see the best of humanity in our peers, in our neighbors, and I think that the messages that are on the Post-it notes that you'll see tonight on this screen behind me typify that example. And we're so grateful to work with our students every single day, and we were so impressed and moved as directors by how they came together as a community within a community in their time of need. Please enjoy John Mackey's piece. a BA in Computer Science. In the trumpet section, Eric Powell is receiving a BS in Computer Engineering. We have some friends in the back of the room. In the horn section, we have Daniel Fisher receiving a BS in Aerospace Engineering. In the saxophone section, Moon Kim receiving a BS Economics and Statistics. And then in the flute section, Sky Chen receiving a BA in Computer Science and also Music. Would you give them a round of applause? Please join us after the conclusion of our concert. There will be light refreshments over in the multipurpose room. Thank you so much for being here and for joining us at home on the live stream. Without further ado, please enjoy Katahj Copley's In Living Color. As soon as I grab the score.